Alrighty, 300 refresh part 2. Started out with doing the 317 big bore kit. Had a few things go wrong, as you saw in the other video. No big deal, straightened all that out. As you can see, the cylinder head's a different color than the jug. Very cool. That's all in there, running absolutely perfect, very tight. You can see my new exhaust studs. I used the M10 by 1.5 to M8 by 1.25. It's like a fat, skinny stud. Put those in there, good to go. Jam that up. So fix that. Fix the bolt that was stripped out in the top of the valve cover. Everything's good to go. Engine is perfect. That all went together really well. I couldn't find my donut seal for the exhaust seal, but luckily I had some random ones lying around. I think they're from a Rhino 660, which has 2 pipes, and that fit perfect. So that's good to go. And then while I was doing that, I noticed my swing arm was cracked. I did have it professionally made, but they didn't design it for the center shock mount I'm doing. And the guy who made the swing arm said not to show you this, but I think it's hilarious. So here's how I braced it up. Absolutely hideous. This is galvanized, so that wasn't welding super well. I didn't grind anything. This swing arm is the piece of metal he used in the center would have worked fine with the shock mount back here, but with the shock mount here, that's putting a lot of twisting on that, putting a lot of moment on the swing arm. So the tube side's fine, but this side had a little crack right here. So that's all braced up. Hopefully it'll last a ride. He's going to make me another one, and he said it's going to be one of a kind. So hopefully it'll look hilarious and be really beefy. And then I looked at the front end, and I noticed that it was sagging a little bit. I like my stuff to sit level. So I went ahead and did my PVC spacers. No big deal. Threw those on the 400EX springs. And as you can see, my CV joint angles are looking nice. I'll probably break some CV joints. Interestingly enough, every single thing on the front of the bike was loose, and that wasn't like, here's one I missed. And that probably isn't because I left it loose. It's probably because I was running a locker and it was just beating the crap out of everything. And I'm not a huge fan of these tie rods that my Big Red, that my Foreman lift came with. I'm going to get some Z-bent ones because they're rubbing the diff really bad, and they already have some slack in them and stuff. But everything had loosened up just from fighting that locker all the time. So I took the locker out. This is my original diff. So it's going to be an open diff, you know, 3.25 wheel drive, but it's going to be nice and it's going to be rideable. And when I was working on all this, UPS came and delivered this little guy down here. Oh yeah, I got that for like $300. People ask all the time because those things are kind of weird to mount. There's like an anti-rotation feature. It's just a strap. I just take that rubber strap and I put a hose clamp to the frame just like that. That's always worked fine for me. I've done a few of these. I've never messed with the wide open name brand one before. I assume it's the same thing as the old Warren one. But one thing I recommend is, see all this gear oil? This thing didn't come oiled at all, so I filled it full of gear oil, and now it feels really nice. I mounted it just like that for temporarily. I'm not a big fan of the big goofy mount it comes with. But you got to keep the cable under the rack. That way when you're putting stuff on the rack, you don't end up kinking your cable or anything. Here's how you route the cable. You want to have no bends, and the most that right up there on the diff keeps it away on the inside of the breather line, keeps it away from the tie rods and everything, and it's a pretty safe way to route it. Put some zip ties there so it doesn't rub any hard angles. Should be good to go. Also, that thing has a lot of slide back and forth in it, like this, and the factory dry shaft has a spring. You can reuse the spring, but I find that kind of stupid because you have a rubber strap right there anyways that lets you set where it's going to ride. So my rule of thumb is I go all the way forward and then bring it back about half an inch, 3/8 of an inch, and you'll ride right there. If you have it sitting all the way back and you go in a lot of mud and water, you'll eventually wear out the splines on the front of it, and you'll be in for a bad surprise. But so this thing's going to ride awesome. It's got an open diff in the front now, and it's got the 2x4. One of these days, I will either find or steal, because I know where one is that isn't being used, a Detroit gearless locker, so I can have a full locker and then still have the 2-wheel drive when I want it. But it's looking pretty good. The spring spacers really woke it up. So I refreshed the motor. All I did was the piston and the 317. I didn't mess with the cam or the cam chain. They were all good to go. Next time I do the top end, I'll put the big red cam chain. The guy that did that 317 machining was great. Came with a really nice kit, nice thick base gasket, almost like a shim, you know. Very nice. I can't remember his name right now, but I'll post it in the description. Who I got that kit from. He just sent me everything. The only thing it didn't come with was the exhaust donut, but I mean it came with even the little seal for the compression release, which was great because mine was leaking and I forgot to order it, and it came with that seal right there, so I was real happy about that. But yeah, it's gonna be good to go. People always ask about breaking in a bike. I like to break in a bike, you don't hold high RPMs for a long time, and you don't let it idle for a long time. That's the two most important things. You want to cycle the compression, and you also can heat cycle it. So like I'll ride for like 5 minutes, let it cool down, start it up, ride for like 5 minutes, let it cool down. And when you're riding it, you don't want to be lugging it, but you also don't want it to be tacking out. So I like to do a lot of engine braking, like up through the gears, down through the gears, up through the gears, down through the gears. That's just like for the first little bit. Once the rings start to break in, in my theory, I'm not a machinist, but I like to break in a bike the way I'm going to ride it. So I'm not going to go submerge it and get water in rings that aren't even sat yet. But I ride it pretty hard within the first couple hours because that always worked for me. And 300s are air cooled and they break in really well, anyways. And I'm using a factory Honda piston, so that's the 317, which is a Rancher sleeve and a Rancher piston, basically. Really good kit. Bumps up the compression a little bit and gives you some more displacement. So this thing's gonna run really good. Hopefully the back of the bike doesn't fall off before I get that new swing arm. But yep, that's what I did today. Still got I'm not done with it tomorrow. I'm gonna do a snorkel on it. The flex pipe was cool, but it's not high flow. So I'm gonna do 1.5 out of the airbox, mill a piece of, by mill I mean my getaway. Like I do all my snorkels, but trim down a piece of 1.5, come out here, 45 to get around the engine, and then I'm gonna have it come up probably right here. That's my goal, is have it right here. Keep it as centered and as far back as possible, not wasting any rack space. And then this, I'm gonna weld a bracket that's gonna come out and bring it to about here. A little bracket, it'll mount in there. That way it'll be, real convenient to grab it. That's a little bit of a far reach for me and being a lazy American, But yeah, let me center that. Oh, good to go.